Well, it's pretty much official. If you live in Washington state, you no longer have the right to decide what's best for your child. Could this way of thinking jump borders and come to Idaho? Let's find out. If you live in Washington, learning that your state representatives are reaching their grotesque fingers into every facet of your life is absolutely no new news. And your state's been on a roll recently, passing 2 new bills that no other state in the country has seen yet. Controversially removing your right to decide for your child what treatments are and aren't necessary to their gender identity. And if you have any opposition to what the almighty government says, well, they'll just take your kids from you and give what they think is necessary without any due process. When I initially heard about House Bill 5599, I thought, okay, this has to be a joke, or it has to be just misinterpreted some way. So I did a little digging and found it is exactly what I've heard it to be. Titled, Supporting Youth and Young Adults Seeking Protected Healthcare Services. Simply going off the title of this bill, it comes across as a no-brainer. I mean, what rational person wouldn't want youth and young adults to get the healthcare services that they need? However, as the party that pushed this bill through frequently likes to do, give a bill a flowery name and title that isn't even close to what the bill actually entails, reading through the bill, it tells a different story. I'm going to read you some passages from the bill and then go through what exactly they're meaning. Except as provided in B of this subsection, any person, unlicensed youth shelter, or runaway homeless youth program that without legal authorization provides shelter to a minor and that knows at the time of providing shelter that the minor is away from a lawfully prescribed residence or home without parental permission, shall promptly report the location of the child to the parent, law enforcement agency of the jurisdiction in which the person lives, or the department, unless there is compelling reason not to contact the parent or guardian. Okay, what is a compelling reason? And it says it in the bill. Compelling reasons include but are not limited to circumstances that indicate that notifying the parent or guardian will subject the minor to abuse or neglect. What's defined as abuse or neglect? It doesn't say it anywhere in this bill, which is where you start to get into the nitty-gritty where things are just so vague that there's actually no set in stone thing that they can and can't enforce. They just decide, whoever decides, what abuse or neglect may be. Another compelling reason means the youth is in the host home or seeking placement in a host home while seeking or receiving protected health services. What are protected health services? Protected health services means gender-affirming treatment as defined in RCW 74.09.675 and reproductive health services as defined in so forth. So, what are those reproductive health services? Let's look at some examples. Facial feminization surgeries and facial gender-affirming treatments such as tracheal shaves, hair electrolysis, and other care such as mastectomies, breast reductions, breast implants, or any combination of gender-affirming procedures, which basically means we don't want to put it in here because it makes the bill look bad, but castration and genital mutilation. So what can this be boiled down to? Well, if a child under 18 goes into a center or shelter and says, my parents don't believe that I believe I am this thing, I identify as this, and they don't believe that that is the same thing, so I want to undergo irreversible, life-altering procedures without them knowing, and I don't want you to tell them that. This sets a dangerous precedent because now we have schools teaching children certain things that maybe the parents don't agree with, and oftentimes the parents aren't even let in on what the kids are being taught. So now you have these young, malleable children that are convinced that they are this certain thing from either being coerced into this or actually being in that, or even just in societal pressure. And their parents are forced to go along with it. And if they don't, well, then the state's just going to see to it that you don't have any contact with your child and there isn't a damn thing that you can do about it. So not only do you not have the right to raise your children as you see fit, but you also don't even have the right to protect your children as you see fit because the state of Washington is about to pass one of the most egregious gun control measures this nation has ever seen. It's going to make California and Oregon look like nothing. So how is Idaho going about these major talking points that are going on in America today? Let's see. First things first, in 2021, Idaho was one of the first states in the nation to ban the teaching of critical race theory. This is considered a huge win by many and was one of the major reasons that people moved to Idaho over the last couple years and brought their kids with them. No state-sponsored indoctrination camps are pretty much a win-win. More recently and notably, Idaho passed 2 bills in relation to transgender youth. The first is House Bill 71, which makes it a felony to provide puberty blockers, hormone therapy, and/or transition-related surgeries. And any physician who are found to have provided these services could face 10 years in prison. And the second is Senate Bill 1100, which require public schools to maintain separate restrooms for boys and girls. Students can even sue their school for $5,000 if they encounter a student using a bathroom that doesn't align with their biological sex at birth. Now, in addition to this, schools need to provide reasonable accommodation to students that are unable or unwilling to use original bathrooms. I don't know about you, that seems pretty reasonable to me. So with that being said, Idaho has taken a complete opposite approach that our neighbors to the west have taken. And honestly, it'll be interesting to see how this turns out because you have such stark differences just across a state line. And honestly, I don't see any flip-flopping either way because we have such strong beliefs on how both ways are run in each of the states. It'll be interesting to see which one prevails because as different as they are, one's going to prevail and one isn't. And my bets are on a state that's going to support a strong family structure, supports sound care for its kids, and protects a family's right to how they raise their kids and how they're going to protect those kids. I wish I had some words of optimism for those of you living in Washington who this is going to seriously impact, but I think it's past the point of no return. So if you're thinking about relocating to Idaho, I'd be more than happy to assist you in your search for freedom. Until next week, I'm Isaac Crace with Top Idaho Real Estate, your third generation Idaho Realtor.